Ask the Podcast Coach for January 30th, 2021.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is. It's that music that means it's Saturday. It's time for Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com, and joining me right over there, that's a weird way to point, is the one and only Jim Cullison from theaverageguy.tv. Jim, how's it going, buddy?
Greetings, Dave. Happy Saturday morning to you. I realized as I logged into Clubhouse, I didn't have the volume turned down. So I had to quickly, it was a really lame dance that I did this morning. I was trying to turn down the volume and get some things done. Happy eBay sales day. Well, it's still making noise coming out of this thing. I thought I turned it all the way off. Is there a way to mute the sound completely? It's like,
I think you'd have to turn down the volume on your phone. I think
I did. I turned it all the way down, but it's like it won't go. It won't.
In that case, I believe it's demon possession. In that point,
I'm gonna leave quietly. Screw that. I got my mixer sold, which eBay is one of those kinds of things when you go to sell gear, it takes a couple times of selling something to kind of figure out. I mean, it's easy, but it's still pretty complicated and all the things you have to do. And shipping, and they're charging sales tax now. That's something I knew I hadn't.
That's interesting.
Seen in some states that require it. And but the Mackie mixer, somebody gave me an offer. I took it, put it in the original box, dropped it off at the UPS store. You print the label, it's gone. So, I think if you're a podcaster, we probably all have a lot of extra gear.
Yes,
maybe now's a good time to.
Did
throw some on eBay?
Was there a little tear coming out of the corner of your eye?
No, I've killed two of those things. I was kind of glad. The Motu now sits on a speaker up off the desk, so it's completely like it would have to be a Noahic type of flood down here to get to the thing. So I may even put it in a rack and move it up higher. It's kind of one of those things. I did spill my coffee last week, and it went the other direction. And I just noticed this morning my Amazon Alexa, my Amazon Echo device was stuck.
Stuck.
To the desk.
Well, speaking of coffee,
we got to pour some, don't we?
It is time to do the morning pour, and that, of course, is brought to you by our good friends over at podcastbranding.co. That's our buddy Mark. And the nice thing about this, I realize, is I look at other options from time to time. If you want an artwork or a logo or a website, anything like that, then many times you order it and then they give it to one of their team members. And when you work with Mark, you work with Mark. That's right. It's one-on-one consulting / graphic design / making sure that whatever you got from Mark is going to fit your brand. And I was doing some other things this week where I had to put the School of Podcasting logo on it, and again, I'm just like, you know what? I'm very happy with my logo. So if you want some one-on-one attention to make sure that whatever you're going to be doing with Mark is going to look great, then go over to podcastbranding.co, get your logo, get your artwork, get your website, and tell them that Dave and Jim sent you. And as Jim holds up his mug,
of course, mug, mug, and another awesome supporter of the Dog Podcast Network. They launched last week. If you haven't got a chance to listen to it, dogpodcastnetwork.com. They got some jobs available, so just dogpodcast.com/jobs if you want to see what's going on over there. Dogpodcastnetwork.com/101. So lots of great stuff going on. Dave, one of the things I mentioned last week is if even if you're not you don't take, maybe it's winter and you're not taking your dog out for a walk, the podcast episodes are like under 30 minutes. So they're kind of great length to listen to. Maybe you're commuting again, or maybe you're maybe just going out on a walk. You don't even have to have a dog. Head out to dogpodcastnetwork.com. Download it. You can find it anywhere. Good stuff. James, thanks for sending the mug.
Yeah, if you're into to dogs, definitely check it out. And we have one special announcement. We always do this. That's right. When we have a new patron join us, we are very, very excited. And in this case, it's not really a new patron. It is Felix from, let me share my screen here, and I believe they just opened nominations, the Latin Podcast Awards. This is a podcast awards. If you are, especially for Spanish-speaking people, you can check it out, Latin Podcast Awards. They've been doing it since 2017. Really nice website. It was over there checking out all sorts of resources and things like that you can check out. And the Latin Podcast Awards is powered by the Audio Dice Network, which is a network of independent podcasters from around the world. But thank you so much. They actually changed their patronage up to $20 a month, which is great. But they also then paid for the whole year. So I was like, well, holy cow. So anytime you up your patronage, we give you a big shout out. So thanks to Felix and the gang over there at the, again, Latin Podcast Awards.com. So with that, although now I want to dance some more, we just keep that on. It's Saturday. Hey, everybody. Okay.
You had it right to the point.
To the very end. See, here's why. What did I do? I imitated Speedy Gonzalez, which I'm pretty sure would get banned in today's world.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be.
And this is what Dave looks like when his face turns red. Okay.
You're right. It's okay.
Yeah.
Hey, okay. So listen, they're giving me a hard time in chat, because Randy's like, Jim, everything has a mute button to it, right? And so.
Ooh,
are you getting that feedback?
Yeah, I'm getting, because now I'd have to mute my phone because you're coming through twice, once through you. So in the bottom right-hand corner, you want to keep your microphone muted.
Right. So that I got that part, right? So we tested that.
But you're still hearing me.
I'm still hearing the feed coming out of the phone.
Right. So you'd have to turn the phone down on the left-hand side.
I'm a tech guy. I get this part. Right. But when I push the button all the way down, it won't, it leaves one. I am pushing it all the way down. It leaves one
little thing.
Whatever that is, right?
Oh, that's weird.
It won't shut off all the way. It won't mute from that. Okay, somebody, I'm a tech guy, guys. I'm bright enough to know there's a do not disturb button right here. It's off. I get that. It won't shut off.
That's
I don't know. Everybody if you're in there, it is an iPhone. It has to be an iPhone. It's only on
iOS right now. Yes, exactly.
I'm a tech guy. I know this stuff.
Yeah.
It will not. The app will physically not go all the way off for me. I can't take it all the way down to where it's completely shut
off. That's funny. All right. Well,
this thing called a volume button to the left. Yeah, I know. Guys, that's what I do. So, anyways, I'm gonna shut it off for now. And
well, in the meantime, we're gonna bring, and I'm doing something different today. Instead of asking people, I've invited Sarah to come on the stage. I'm assuming she has a question. And what I've done is in the room, it says, ask the podcast coach recording. And then the description of it says, if you are in this room and are asked to come on the stage, you're being recorded. And so I'm not going to be asking people. I'm going to be a rebel. And I'm not going to be asking people if they have a question or not. But maybe Sarah doesn't want to come on stage. As always, if you want to jump in on the video, if you've got your jammies on and you're looking presentable, you can always go to askthepodcastcoach.com/join, and that will jump you right into the video. So multiple ways of jumping in. The news, I think it's kind of big news, where I know a lot of people asked for it, is Squadcast rolled out yesterday video. And so what's interesting is the thing I'm using right now, StreamYard, is also has rolled out some new services. They have a pro plan that's $50 a month, and if you do that, you get separate audio tracks. I'm assuming, I haven't checked to see if it's, to me, separate video tracks makes my brain hurt, because if I end up with 2 tracks, one for you, Jim, one for me, and then one video track for you and one those video, if you have separate video, I'm assuming the audio is synced with the video. Otherwise, that's a syncing nightmare.
Yeah, you would think so. I don't know what they've done on that end. It's possible. Technically, it's possible, right? They're recording both ends, and they record the interface as we see it. They could do it separate. I don't know. That's new. I haven't followed their pricing. I took advantage of the $10 offer that came out around Christmas time and have been pretty happy with that. So I don't think they'll offer that again, to be honest.
So StreamYard is $50 a month if you want separate tracks and unlimited streaming for that. By the way, you have unlimited streaming even on the $20. I think I'm on the $25 plan on StreamYard. Squadcast, $40 for 5 hours. So if somebody said, what's the difference between the two? One is $10 more and you get unlimited streaming. One is $40 a month and you get 5 hours. So Sarah has made it to the stage, which is awesome. Sarah, welcome to Ask the Podcast Coach. What's your question?
Hey, good morning. I'm happy to be here. I don't really have a question. I've been a long time listener and I'm on the West Coast. And so I just kind of wanted to jump on because I usually don't make it to any of the lives. I usually just listen later. I just wanted to kind of come on and say hi. But actually, Dave, you reviewed my podcast on the podcast Rodeo show back in July, August, something like that.
This always makes me nervous because it's like, and you told me I sucked. It's like, wait, what? So, no, did I give you any good advice?
You did. And actually, a lot of what you said, I already knew that I needed to do. And the funny part is my husband actually submitted it for me without me knowing.
Oh, that's...
Okay, are you still talking to him? You guys are still married?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So she goes, my soon-to-be ex-husband actually submitted it. Yeah, that'd be kind of
right.
different. So,
Sarah, which podcast?
It's called OT for Life. It's about occupational therapy.
Oh, nice. And so, what kind of feedback do you get from your listeners? What are they saying back to you? What are you hearing, and what's the purpose of it?
Well, the purpose of it really is to connect and inspire occupational therapy practitioners and students from across the globe. We have a lot of burnout in our profession, and especially with everything that's going on, there's been a lot of difficulties within the profession of productivity and all those demands and changes with the pandemic and stuff like that. So the really interesting thing that's happened, and I've been going now a little bit over 2 years, is that I have had multiple people reach out to me and say, hey, I was about to leave the profession. I was about to no longer be an OT practitioner, but I found your show and it reignited my passion, and I love it, and I'm in it now, and I'm not going to leave the profession. And that was nothing that I ever thought that would ever happen, and it's happened multiple times since I started.
That's very cool.
That is great. Did you implement after the podcast Rodeo show? Did you implement anything different, or have you made any changes recently to improve what you're doing?
Yeah, actually, great question. So I did. So one of the big feedback is that I recorded my intro on my very old mic when I first started. Like, I think I did that within my first couple episodes, and it wasn't a very good mic, and I didn't really know about mic placement and all that kind of stuff. So I redid my intro with my ATR 2100 that I've had forever. I just hadn't hadn't done anything with my intro yet. And I did do a couple other small things. I can't remember what I did, but the big thing is that I think at some point this week, I'm actually going to be putting out a survey to start to get some feedback back on it. Hopefully, we'll see. So I've been listening to the School of Podcasting and really trying to figure out like how to implement this survey, and hopefully I'll get some feedback and hear what people like and what people don't like and continue to make changes.
Awesome. Well, thanks for popping in. I realized as I was looking at this, I'm like, oh, you know what? Sarah didn't have her hand raised. I just pulled her out of the audience, and I'm like, get up here. So thanks for coming on and sharing.
Sarah, you did pretty well. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Good luck. Good luck. Call back in and let us know how your survey goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you want to come on the stage, I guess I should announce that. Feel free to raise your hand if you're listening in Clubhouse. Now, of course, if you're watching us live on YouTube at askthepodcastcoach.com/live, you can go to askthepodcastcoach.com/join, and you'll jump right here into the video, which is fun-filled and exciting. And we do prefer that you have clothes on. That's always a bonus. I did. We were doing live one time, and I did have somebody come in with no shirt on. And it's a little alarming. Like you're like, did you tell her to put her shirt back on?
Hell no. It was a guy. And he was we were we were just seeing, but first he came in with just his face, and I was like, hey, bring your camera down a little bit. So he sheepishly brought it down, right? And I'm like, did you just wake up? He's like, nah, just kind of a slow start to the morning. I was like, put a shirt on, dude. Yeah. So anyways, it's happened.
That is one of those things where, as much as we're all into live streaming and it's great fun and all, you do have to be careful because, if you're asking right now, I have no call screener. If you go to, askthepodcastcoach.com/live, I got to pay attention and I got to be ready to hit the, eject button on that person.
Yeah. Well, when he reached up for his camera, my immediate thought was we were going to get the wonk. Right now, you can't see that. You can't see that on the audio only, but that's just imagine when I'm wonka right there. So I panicked a little bit, and I was quickly trying to find the eject button, like to get him out. Fortunately, he just focused it on his face, and it was fine. But
there you go.
That's that's sometimes if you want to do a live show, I'm gonna predict over the next couple of weeks as we use Clubhouse. Now, Clubhouse is great because it's audio only, so we don't have to worry about that. But I'm predicting, Dave, next 3 weeks we get our first Baba Booey in there. So I think so.
Because here's why I would say,
and 3 or 4 weeks,
if you're not familiar with Baba Booey is the producer. His real name is Gary of the Howard Stern Show, and so what happens is Howard Stern fans will call up, MSNBC, they'll call up other radio stations. They call a lot of like internet streaming radio stations. And if they'll call and act like an actual caller, and then they'll just go, Baba Booey, Howard Stern's penis, Baba Booey. And then they'll hang up the phone. So we haven't had anybody yet.
No, we've never had one. Don't listen. If you're listening, don't do it. Okay.
Because Clubhouse has, you have to kind of put in your name and it's not anonymous. And I can then say, hey, trigger that person. And I guess even on Google, right? Unless you set up a fake Google Gmail, which isn't hard.
I think you're going to start seeing fake accounts in Clubhouse here coming up.
Yeah.
We're to that point where I think there's enough invites in the system now that it's going to, it's going to catch those kinds of people. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm hoping I'm wrong. 3 or 4 weeks. Let's just say the month of February. I think we'll get one. Just kind of like, right. And then out.
You never know. Yeah. And that's why you have to kind of be, as much as we love Facebook Live and all these other things, you never know. One of the books I liked, that one of my favorite ones is somewhere behind me. It's Beyond Powerful Radio by Valerie Geller. And I remember when I was reading it, she has a whole thing about doing live radio because it's really more about radio than it is podcasting. But she's the person that coined the phrase, there is no such thing as too long, only too boring. And she has a whole thing on there about dealing with live people and the fact that, especially on the radio, if you listen to sports especially, a lot of people will get on live and they're like, hey, man, the Chiefs are going to kill Tampa Bay this week because, Mahomes is the best and that's it, man. And then the radio host will be like, well, it is Tom Brady and he's been there before and he has a lot of experience. And then the guy go, yeah, but Mahomes is the best. And then the guy, yeah, but Mahomes, okay, at that point, that guy has had 1 point and he's now said it 3 times. And you have to realize that, okay, this guy is not going to go say, thanks for the call and hang up or I'll listen or whatever. And that's when you have to go, hey, thanks for the call, click, and get them out of there. So it's a different species, but live is fun. You get that instant feedback. That's the part that's, kind of different.
Well, if you're in Clubhouse right now and you want to ask us a question, they just raise their hand, right? That's all they do.
That is it.
And we'll bring them in.
And I get a little notification that so-and-so has raised their hand and that whole 9 yards. And of course, if on StreamYard, if you come and go to askthepodcastcoach.com/join, you show up at the bottom of my screen because I'm the person that's running the meeting. And then I bring you on the stage. If you're wondering how is Dave doing this whole Clubhouse, YouTube, StreamYard thing, go to askthepodcastcoach.com/how, and that is an HOW. And I actually have a video on YouTube now showing you kind of the behind the scenes of Ask the Podcast Coach and how I pull it off and that whole 9 yards. And I don't even throw into that, oh, by the way, I'm streaming to Spreaker. That's a whole other, but really the fun of that is the Rodecaster. Because really when I went to make that video, it really boils down to plug everything into the Rodecaster and then plug the Rodecaster to your computer. Done. It's really not that hard to do that. So.
Hey, next week, so I got an email. I told you guys last week I bought a Mac Mini to take over the studio PC. I was, the reason I'm doing this, I've been having some flickering with my camera. Like, and it's not the only reason I'm doing it, by the way, but I was getting, and it was actually showing on StreamYard. So when I would, all my broadcasts, work included, were having this flicker. It kind of comes and goes. So I have two C920s down here. So I flipped them to see if that was the problem. And then I moved it around on the US, and it wasn't. It still was flickering with the other camera. And then I do what we talk about when we're troubleshooting. I pulled everything and started moving, one thing at a time. And it does look like it's the USB bus on the PC that's causing the problem. Well, you really can't. It's soldered onto the board. You can't fix that. It's kind of broken. So the Mac upgrade kind of comes at a good time for me. But ordered it. It was originally supposed to come in on the 12th. Got an email from Apple, and they said the 5th, which is next Friday. So next Saturday we should hopefully. I hate to test this. Maybe you won't want me to. Hate to test it, but I am kind of looking forward to having that new Mac Mini. The intention of that is to upgrade a little bit of my internal kind of processes from not just the live streaming. It's going to live stream really, really well, but I've been doing more and more audio and video editing, and of course the M1 chip on that, and it's a Mac. It's really good at that. So I'm kind of looking forward to switching over. It's not as Dave. It doesn't look like it's going to be as hard as I think. Audacity is on the Mac, so I'll use that. I'll use iMovie to do. I used Windows Movie Maker today, which is a 2012 piece of software. So
wow,
iMovie.
Wow.
Yeah. It works though. Works great for what I do.
Right.
Like, it again. If it's not broken, don't fix it. So it'll be a good opportunity for me to try out a new piece of hardware, and I'm thinking it's going to be a really good live streaming box. And,
Is this your first Mac?
First Mac in a while. I haven't had a Mac in maybe 4 or 5 years. Yeah,
because that's the fun thing is when it's brand new, you're like, wait, where's the what? The chooser, huh? Yeah,
exactly. No, but cables are all coming. I need to do some. I need to get 2 video adapters for it so that my current screens, my current monitors will work. But no, I moved some things around this week. It's kind of fun to get a new. Just get a new PC and give it a try. So it was just surprising. I got it. Apple was like, a week early. Like, that never happens.
Yeah.
In shipping, right? So I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, I know it's always fun. You think it's fun to learn things new, but on the other hand, as I look at the calendar, it's January 30th, and all those new things you thought you were going to do this year, this month is pretty much done. So learning Spanish, not really as big a priority.
Really done it yet?
Haven't really jumped on that bandwagon. I was like, I should learn Spanish. I should at least start, find an app, yada, yada, yada. And and that hasn't happened. So if you're...
you gotten anything done as we think about New Year's resolutions? This is a good January. It's a good time to review. Like, have you made progress, let's say? I've
made progress. Not in the places I want, but like I'm exercising more. I'm getting more sleep. I just need to cut back the calories and I will start losing weight. But that's the other thing. Don't know me if, at least for me, and I don't want to turn this into a weight loss show, but this applies to podcasting. The more stuff you add, like when you add that second and third and fourth podcast, there are 2 things that happen. Either A, you're really, really busy promoting those, or if you kind of leave them on the vine to die, you then feel bad because you're leaving them on the vine to die. And I was like, I need to take I started a couple last year as a test, and I'm like, I think the test is done. And the test is, I don't want to talk about that. So let's kill that one. Let's kill this one. I have one, I always talk about my weight loss show that I want to kill, and the dang thing keeps making money. So that's a hard one to,
it's hard to let it go and it's still making money, right?
Yeah.
We made a goal to create, because I've never done a totally front loaded podcast like where you do them all, you put them, they're all in the can, and then you not release them all at once like binge style, but we have a whole year's worth of episodes almost complete, and we're going to post them one a week and just let that thing go forward. Now, this is something, these aren't live. They've already been done. They're kind of repurposed content. We like them. It's not, oftentimes we say, don't put that many in the can because you can't change them. No, these have already been vetted. We don't need to worry about changing them, some of those kinds of things. The goal is to be done by the end of the month, and we're almost there. So we're not going to quite make all of them by the end of the month, but I think probably by mid-February, we'll have the whole year loaded and ready to go. That's going to be a weird feeling, Dave, to have, every podcast, like, it's done. You don't have to really do much. It's just, they just happen.
It is nice to have them in the can. I have probably 4. For some reason, what I started doing, here's again, should I have my podcast on YouTube? What I started doing is recording the podcast Rodeo show as a video. And then I take the video. The only thing that's weird is at the end of the video, I go, thanks for listening. And I realize that there are people watching the video that go, he just said listening and I'm watching. That's weird.
Well, yeah, they were listening as well.
Yeah. And somehow I've gone from, maybe getting 1 or 2 people would order that. And then I would just go out and find random podcasts to where I'm now like 6 weeks ahead. And I think it's because people on YouTube, this is where I would say YouTube is, I think, a different audience than the regular podcast listener. So I'm actually getting a new audience over there.
Yeah. No.
And consequently, they're going over and ordering it, which is kind of fun. It's one of those things where I'm kind of going now, I'm like, because I did it just, again, that show was never supposed to go more than a month. It was, I was going to start it. I was going to test Pinecast and be done. And I started and was like, this is great. No, they're like, you're saying everything everybody else thinks, except you're saying it. I'm like, okay. And so I was like, well, I've never played with Fiverr before. Let's throw this up as a $5 thing. Well, it still takes, as much as I did that show because I wanted to do a show with no prep, it still takes. And now that I'm doing a video, it's like, this is worth more than $5, but I still am having fun with it. I did find a thing, and we're reviewing a show today, the podcast, yet another podcast, the podcast review show with Eric. I found something that I'm going to now start watching for. And that is Jim. So what you're telling me, Jim, is you bought a Mac Mini and you think it's going to be good for streaming, because that's just what Jim said. And I've noticed a few people that, and I don't know if it's a kind of like the not the guest, the host version of an like that's a good question where you have to say something while you're thinking of something else to say. And the person we're reviewing today, and I call that a me too, where someone, I have Shane from Spybrary is on the School of Podcasting this week, and he said something, and I gave him an example that was kind of like, I've done that too. I've seen that. It's really blah, blah, blah. And for me, I cut those out because you just said that you think the Mac Mini will be a great streaming machine. So when I go, you know what, I bet it would be, because Mac Minis are streaming and they're Mac. Okay, I didn't add anything to the conversation. So get that out of there and just go to the next question. And I'm going to now kind of start listening for, and I need to come up with a new phrase because Me Too has a whole other connotation to it. So repeat, the topic, or I don't know, it's just a repeat, basically. And I was like, and it's just one of the things that in this case, the host did on almost every question. And I was like, I bet she's trying to come up with another question and doesn't know what to say. So she's going to repeat it. And I was like, that's an interesting tactic. So, well, hey, it's 11 o'clock. Well, actually, before we do that, go ahead.
I'm running out of coffee.
Are you running out of coffee? All right. So this coffee pour, of course, is brought to you by, he said, pulling up his PowerPoint quickly in the background, our awesome people. If you go to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome, you will see awesome people like, well, first of all, we have the teacher's pet, which is We talked about him earlier. The Dog Podcast Network, James Jacobson. And if you like dogs, they really, really like dogs over there. And they did just launch their Dog Edition show. And so it's podcast for dog lovers. In a dog-eat-dog world, see what they did there? We got you covered. The Dog Podcast Network is your premier source for unique content related to our love of dogs. And I actually told ex-wife number one about this because she is a huge dog. I am a dog person. She is like off the charts when it comes to
Dave,
dogs.
Not a big fan of big launches, but these guys James seems to be doing it right. Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people ask us, like, how do I get more listeners? Well, you advertise on Ask the Podcast Coach. I mean, I'm sure he's going to pick up some listeners from us because he's, both sponsored the mug and as a teacher's pet, he paid a little bit to get it done. Yeah. And I think sometimes that's just what it takes.
We can talk about that when we're done. Yeah. Jordan Harbinger is spending $40,000 a month. Promoting a show.
Well, if you're making $40,000 a month on the backside,
that's the key. He's making more.
Yeah.
But our $20 supporters, Felix again over at the Latin Podcast Awards. Find him over at Latin Podcast Awards. I don't.
Can you do it?
I can. Here we go. We can have that for the whole segment. I like it. We want to dance now. Kim over at Toastmasters101.net. If you want to develop your voice, reduce your editing time, and improve your content, Toastmasters is the way to go. And you can start your Toastmasters journey over at Toastmasters101.net. I so want to dance right now or get maracas.
Great music. Yeah, great music.
Max Trescott up in the air at aviationnewstalk.com. Greg, where he's teaching financial wellness over at debtshepherd.com. Shane at spybrary.com. Get your James Bond and everything else on over there. Glenn the Geek Hebert over at horseradionetwork.com. If you like horses, you'll love Glenn. Check him out at horseradionetwork.com. Michael Delaney over at Baby Mountain Radio Productions, where podcasting and hard work are made fun. And I just realized Michael's going to go, Dave, you forgot to update the PowerPoint slide. And you are correct, and I'm sorry. So babymountainradio.com is next week. Yeah. The Indie Drop-In Network, where it's a podcast network connecting listeners with amazing independent creators. All shows are 100% created and submitted episodes, so you can go over if you got an episode in true crime or comedy or any kind of scary story. It really is a place where it's a channel that Greg is the guy out promoting it, just trying to get new listeners, and so he needs new content. So it's a great place to kind of combine the both of those. Ed Sullivan talking about sounding great when we're jiving to the music here. Ed will make you sound great at soniccupcake.com. And if you'd like to be an awesome supporter, go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. You'll also see a list of our $10 supporters and everybody else over there on the website. And for more options, if you want to sponsor the mug or just chip in some money, go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/store.
So happy.
I want to make
music.
It is. It's like it reminds me of the old Steve Martin joke where he was like, when you listen to banjo music, you just can't go, oh, come on, I had it. Like when this starts, you just can't go, all right, and when the music kicks in, everyone together, let's walk in the graveyard. Death and grief, sorrow and murder. Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work.
No, you've got to have.
Clubhouse fans, we're sorry. I apologize for Dave.
Yeah, if you just joined us, you're listening to Ask the Podcast Coach. We're here every Saturday at 10:30. I don't know why I'm going into my radio voice. AskThePodcastCoach.com/live. If you're in Clubhouse, just raise your hand and we'll bring you to the stage and you can ask your question that way. But yeah, Jordan,
take a deep breath. Everybody,
yeah.
Okay, Jordan.
All right, Jordan here is spending $40,000 a month promoting a show, and Todd and Rob were talking about this, and Jordan gets, and this is public, he gets hundreds of thousands of downloads per episode. And the last time I listened, and I listen a lot on Friday, he does a Feedback Friday that I really, really like. Not that his other episodes, he does 3 times a week. And I believe he typically has 6 ads per episode. So that's 6 times, let's say 300,000. That's 1,800 something. I don't know. I don't do math live on a podcast, but depending on what he's getting paid, and he's getting paid, I'm assuming a decent CPM because he's got a lot of people listening.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those where it's like, will you spend, $10 to make 20? Yeah, every day. I will spend $10 to make 20. So, and
it's working. Like that's the hard part for people, is that leap of faith with advertising, because you're going to have to advertise before things start coming in, right? You're going to have to put out some capital before. And most people, including me, Dave, I just don't have a lot of faith in that. You have to have a little bit of faith that it's going to work. You have
to have a little bit of faith and a fair amount of money to just light on fire, just in case.
Yeah. Well, the most successful people, though, get out ahead of that, and they spend without fear. And listen, they do have fear. They just do it. Many of us choke up on it. And so if for a lot of people, $1,000 would be a lot. In Jordan's case, that's just, he's just getting started, right? So, that's the hard part. That's why a lot of podcasts aren't successful in the sense of getting a lot of listeners, is you got to make some capital investments in them.
Yeah. And I'm sure he chose the people that he's advertising on. I think he's coming on the New Media Show. I think Rob said he was going to try to get him on to talk about it, but I'm sure he's not, advertising on some, he knows who his demographic is, and he's finding those shows and going there.
Never been an easier way, by the way, today to advertise. Like the advertising channels are out there. They're available. You can advertise on other people's podcasts and buy advertising that way.
I don't know why I never thought about it. Pod News has a way to advertise in their newsletter, and it's like $30 a day, which for as many people, that's, again, it's a niche market. If I'm trying to get in front of podcasters, there's a way to do it.
All right.
We do have a question from the chat room, and this is from Dave. Says, anyone know of a podcast on how to find different kinds of conference, conventions, formats, in-person, virtual? So a podcast on how to find events? I don't know of any off the top of my head. I know podcast about events. There are event planners and things of that nature, but not like, I think that might be one for speakers. Because I'm trying to think of okay, well, who needs that information? Speakers. Speakers are trying to figure out how to get to events and things. I actually spoke at an event this week, which was fun, and online, of course. But if you look for, and I used to listen to one, I forget the guy's name, and his main go-to was talking to colleges. And I was like, that's not really where my target audience is. And it was more like win one for the Gipper kind of speeches, kind of stuff. And I was like, not really, that's not, for me at least, that's not usually what I'm talking about. But that might be something to check out. There are different websites for speakers. In fact, I just got emailed. That's one of the things I have to do this weekend. I forget the name of the company. And they were like, hey, your yearly subscription is going to renew. And I was like, I haven't even looked there because all the events are gone. I'm like, what's the point? So that might be one that I go in and say, I think I'm going to pause my subscription for a while.
It may be a good time, Dave, just mentioning that right now may be a good time to review your current subscriptions. Take a look at your credit card statement, take a look at your bank account, see what you're, especially after Christmas, some of those kinds of things, like to start thinking through, am I really paying that much for, am I really, just kind of get a handle on it. And it's just an idea I just had as I was thinking about it. I should probably keep a spreadsheet somewhere that has all of my current subscriptions in it. So what is it? Where is it? How much is it? And because it's easy sometimes to sign up. We had all these specials during the holidays, and it's easy to sign up for the free trial and then forget that they're going to start charging you in a month, right? So maybe a good idea to go in there and just review your current subscriptions.
Yeah, Podfest Global is happening in March. I think Podcast Movement, I want to say August in Nashville, if I remember right. Because I know they just canceled Coachella, that music thing, that happens every year. then last year they postponed it from April to October, and then they said, "Oh, we'll do it in 2021 in April," and they just said, maybe not.
Yeah.
So,
we went virtual at Gallup, so we do a in-person summit every year, and that went virtual again this year. So second year in a row, we're doing it at 2 days instead of just one this time. Price doubled for that, but we were really hoping to do it in person, but it's just not in the cards quite yet. Do you think we'll be back next summer? In-person type stuff. I mean, I think the NFL, by the way, I think the NFL will lead the way, at least here in the United States,
right,
to what we do. So I think if that season starts in August, if they've got people, if they have fans in seats in stadiums, it seems like that everything else may follow.
You would think.
Yeah. Will you go to a conference next year? Just
I would.
Thinking right now. You feel pretty confident?
I have different, and I definitely know this is not a hoax. So let's just say that up front.
Right.
But the one thing I think it's interesting is, and this sounds, like we're going to get there have people that came out at the beginning. President Trump had a treatment. Like he had this cocktail of, zinc and blah, blah, blah. And he was kind of cured. And I was like, I know we're all about, getting, and I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any means, but
right.
I was like, it kind of sounded there for a second like we found a way to fix you if you got it. And it was like, all of a sudden, it's like, so I don't know. I don't want to get banned off YouTube, but but on the other hand,
where's Banjo when we need him?
Yeah. But on the other hand, I've known people that are younger than I am and probably in better shape that got it and died. So it's one of those weird things. So,
well, I think we need to get some confidence back. I just think that's kind of what needs, regardless of that situation, we kind of need to get some confidence back that it can work. I think a lot of folks have canceled in-person events for this summer already, so I don't think we're going to see anything. Like I said, I think the NFL has the most. I think besides FIFA, could be between the two. They're the largest sports organization in the world. The owners have floated the NFL through the year, right, to make it work.
Yeah.
So it could be interesting to see how it goes and how those conferences come back. So PodFest next year, 2022, you don't think you'd have, assuming
2022,
lots of water has to go under the bridge, but you go back in person, you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I do need to probably mention as well, I'll put this in the chat room. If you go to Accelerate Leica.pro/Dave, I'm actually speaking at this event next week on how to turn your podcast into a book. And this was an interesting situation because the person that contacted me, Jessica, apparently is a big shot smarty pants. And Jessica Perez. And she was a pro athlete. She's an entrepreneur and a coach. And it's me and one other dude, and the rest are all females. But it's all about being focused and how to, especially for coaches and things like that. And with the hassles of the hard drive, I had agreed to send out emails. And boy, she wasn't upset, but she kind of politely nudged me. It's like, hey, can't help but notice you're not promoting this. And I was like, oh, I've had other kind of things pop up, So everybody go to Accelerate Leica.pro/Dave. So and that is an affiliate link, but to me, I just need to show her that, yes, I did mention this. So somebody click on that link, please. So
I think it is important to, if you're going to be a guest in those kinds of things, it's probably good that you promote it in that way. I don't think I've done a good enough job at times when I've been a guest on somebody's podcast of advertising that podcast when it's done. I just don't feel like I do enough, and I do quite a bit, but I think I could always do more.
I just got really good news, and I can't believe I can't find, Dave, it'd be good if you talk into the microphone when you're on a show. I just had this. Oh, here it is. And I just got the email. This is Beyond Powerful Radio, a communicator's guide to the internet age, Valerie Geller.
Oh, nice.
And I just got an email that said, Dave, of course, I would be honored to be interviewed on your show. Because I saw her in a Facebook group, and I said, I quote you all the time. Mm-hmm. There is no such thing as too long, only too boring. And I go, how have you not been on my show yet? And I said, I would love if you want to come on. And she's coming on the School of Podcasting. Nice. So that'll be cool.
Nice.
Yay. I'm excited. And now I'm nervous. Now I got to like go back and read the book. And
That's
again,
a thick book. They
this
still
is-
make those things. That's like a Bible.
yeah. And what's interesting about it is this is not a cheap book because it's used in colleges for
Gotcha.
different radios. So right there, you know, kind of stuff that you're like, So
Dave, you ever thought about going back to school to get a communications degree?
I thought about going back to get my master's because I've got my bachelor's. Isn't that the next thing after bachelor's?
Bachelor's. What's your bachelor's in?
Education, specializing in technical education. So
Technical education, and I have mine in religious studies and humanities. So
Yeah.
you can't get any more. I might as well have gotten a psychology degree.
Yeah.
From that, although it had its advantage. Yeah, I've often thought, and I don't know if I do the master's work because that's a lot of work, but
yeah,
go back to a local community college or even one of the colleges around and kind of look at like what would it take. I graduated in 97 from school, so it's been a while. I've been out of college a while.
Yeah.
But like, how helpful do you think that would be for podcasters to actually go through? And I imagine some of it's a little old school, but to actually go through a communications degree,
I will say this: there was a huge difference between the first time I went to college and the last time, because the last time I went through, I actually did my homework and actually read the book, and it turns out I got much better grades. It was different that way.
Amazing how that works. Like,
Yes.
paid attention in class and
Yeah.
did the
Showed up.
homework.
Yeah. Didn't play cards in the hallway. Yeah. So, and it really,
didn't have your Walkman on.
yeah. But it wasn't really, I wouldn't say it was easy because it was a time commitment, but it wasn't as hard. And that's why school was hard the first time, as I wasn't doing of course, the first time I went to college, I put myself through college and I was running a house. My mom had died. So I was running the house, buying groceries, managing my sister, and organizing the bills for my dad. Plus I was working a part-time job, and I had a girlfriend who was living with me in the house in the basement. So I had a lot of things going on at the time.
Kim says she's got one.
All right.
And she says, don't waste your money. Okay, Kim. Well, there we go. I think it may be maybe not a communications degree, but maybe a broadcast journalism.
I did contact what used to be an icon in Cleveland, because I'm about an hour south. Cleveland's like the biggest city close to me. And I saw and Kim, because she's in the chat room, Robin Swoboda is now a writer for the local newspaper. And she has these really cool stories. And what was interesting is, number one, as you might imagine, Robin Swoboda was a news anchor. So the chances of her being unattractive are pretty slim. And everything that had her, like, I finally found her on LinkedIn. All of her stuff has, like, she either has a picture of her when she was like 7, or there's no picture of all. And of course, the reason for that is, yes, guys are creepy. So, and I just reached out to her and I said, and I actually did the thing where I said, hey, I just read your story about you playing cops and robbers with your grandkid. It was a really good story. Really liked it. If you ever want to turn these into a podcast, I'm right down the street in Akron. So we'll see what happens. But I thought about it. I'm like, here's a person who has great content. She's getting paid. That might be the thing that would stop it, is she's getting paid to put those stories in the newspaper. So if she turned around and gave them for free in her podcast, the newspaper might go, I don't think so. But on the other hand, she's used to creating stories from being on the news. It'll be interesting to see what happened. But I was like, that would be cool if I could get Robin Swoboda to, because that was the whole thing in Cleveland. It's like, I think that is some sort of European name. Something I want to say Polish, but that may not be it. But it was the fact that she was born and raised in Cleveland, and she was the news anchor forever, and went on, of course, once she got to whatever age 32 or what. It's weird when really great news anchors expire when you're a female, and that is so not fair. But it'll be interesting. I reached out to them just to say, hey, why don't you start a podcast? And speaking of that, if you're listening now, you can go to askthepodcastcoach.com/join to join the video. If you're listening on Clubhouse, just raise your hand and we'll bring you up on stage and you can ask your questions away. Kim is saying, hey, if you want to improve your content, you specialize in content. So of course, if you want to be a better speaker, there's that thing called Toastmasters101.net that you might want to check out. And if you want to improve your broadcast skills, find a training college. Colleges, it's way too expensive. And one of the things on Monday's show, I was listening to the interview I did with Shane from Spyberry, but Shane also does a show called Tourpreneur. So can you imagine having a show about traveling and touring new places in 2020? Probably not the best year he's ever had. And yet he actually flourished. And one of the things, and for me, I don't want to do my episode of the School of Podcasting, but there's a difference in a lot of times it comes down to attitude. And some people, when, COVID hit, they were just like, oh, that's it. We're done. Peace out. I'll see you later. And they just quit. And then other people said, okay. And I got this from Michael Hyatt. Michael Hyatt has said this. Anytime something really bad happens to you, yes, it sucks. Yes, it absolutely sucks. But the question you also need to ask is, okay, what does this enable me to do that I couldn't do before? Because usually if something has drastically changed in your life, you have an opportunity. And so Shane reached out to his audience, and they're all like, well, we could look at getting better at what we do. So let's study a little copywriting so we can boost up our websites. Let's do this and let's do that. And so it's really got some great tips, but a lot of it was about attitude. When I stepping back, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And I'm like, the difference here is the attitude. Some people are just like, oh, I'm going to go eat worms. Life sucks. And they bailed. And then other people are like, all right, well, this is going to suck for a while. This is going to hurt. This is a shot to the gut. But when I come back, I want to be better than I was. And I was like, that's an attitude difference. So
I do. I love the comments that are coming in on this. And Kyle says, like Elon Musk said, unless you need a degree in hard science, you can learn everything from videos on YouTube. You can probably learn hard science on YouTube too. Yeah, there's one caveat to that. And I think Kim is onto this from a Toastmasters perspective, is I think you need real people doing things with you sometimes to learn. Like, there's one thing about reading an email on a show to people and being good at it. There's another thing about there's one thing about reading an email and thinking the content. There's something else about reading it out loud and reading in front of people that changes things. And I think that honest feedback you get from people is super important. And so Toastmasters does it because they do these speaking things in groups. So my thought on the college side is really just kind of like, getting with some people and not just learning it yourself, alone.
Yeah. Kyle says here, I've taken sort of courses from Stanford and Harvard online, and in many of the big Ivy League school post their 100 and 200 level classes online for free. And at first I thought, why would they do that? But think about it. When you're paying for college, you're not paying for the actual education. You're paying for that piece of paper at the end that says, I did it. So,
it's I get the money part, and it's expensive and some of those kinds of things, but I just do think I think sometimes in the YouTube learning mentality, we've gotten too isolated. It's too easy to not ever practice your craft. And this is a public craft, right? And so I think finding ways to interact with other people. By the way, I think there's some things we can learn from old school radio.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? TV production type stuff, old school TV. So I still think there's things to learn. I think sometimes in new media, we think we got this all figured out. I don't think it's true.
Well, and especially if there's somebody that's doing it well now, that is not an easy case, because it's like, okay, here you go. Here's your 17 songs you get to play for the whole hour. The rest of the time it's advertising. And then we've given you 34 and a half seconds, and you need to be very funny in that part. Go. And it's like, wait, what? So yeah, when I listen to, on occasion, I used to listen to the Morning Zoo people every morning just to kind of go, okay, what's up at the zoo? And it was always kind of weird because they're trying to do hyper local stuff, and at times it was working and other times it wasn't. The other thing I thought that was always ruined that show is they added video. And they were many times going, "Oh, look at what he's doing. Oh, did you see that?" I'm like, guys, this really doesn't make great radio when you're going, "Oh, I can't believe they put it there." Like, what? So that's always kind of interesting. But yeah, and I'm with you. I think one of the things that I keep saying I'm going to do, but I have the old fear of missing out, is I listen to a lot of podcasts about podcasting, and I'm doing much better at giving it about 10 minutes and going, nope, no, this one, nope. But I should be listening to marketing. I should be listening to, like we were talking earlier, there's probably shows about being a better speaker or things like that. It's like, but for some reason, I always want to, listen to these other shows. And some of them, like Kyle does Podrect with Tim. I'm just catching up with Kyle and Tim. That's always fun. Kyle, it's $100, and Tim. They have a running gag on their show. Every time they mention my name, they're like, "Dave, it's $100." It's really expensive to advertise on their show. But I just keep thinking my audience really wants to grow their audience. And I'm like, I should be studying more how to grow your audience and how to market and things of that nature. So,
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm paying for a college degree that's not mine.
Oh.
My daughter's.
Yeah.
And it's expensive right now. And there's you can kind of see from the chat, we kind of go like, I liked going to school. It was great. I never went. I don't miss it. I went and it was a waste of time. Like everybody's, I think in this case, everybody's experience varies, right? Whether it was worth it or not, I'm glad I did it. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have the degree. The job I'm in would have never have hired me without it. So does that mean you have to have one? No, you can get three of my 4 kids. No, 3 of my 5 kids. Somehow I just lost a kid.
Yeah.
Oops. 3 of my 5 have not. And I do have one starting and one ending at this point. The point really wasn't whether it's worth it or whatever. It's just kind of, for me, could that experience be one I learn from? Yeah. It's kind of why I mentioned the community college. Those are a lot less expensive. Too, but
both,
it's good discussion.
Both my degrees, I started, the one I got from a state college, my second one, when I got to get my education degree, I took all the, generic classes at the state college because they transferred the credits to Akron University, the University of Akron. And so that saved me some money, but it still took me years to pay off the student loans for that. So
yeah, I'll tell you what, 5 years in the military taught me a lot, but it didn't teach me everything. And so, the 3.5 years I spent in college getting a 4-year degree, which is unheard of anymore, but I was able to get it done, was one of those kinds of things that taught me a lot about humans, about human nature. I don't regret it, even though I don't use it. I kind of do here. I learned a lot about people, and that's kind of my job now. So I wouldn't. If you have it, I wouldn't regret it. If you didn't get it, I wouldn't regret it. Like you got to live in that space. But I do think there are opportunities for us to get outside of our bubbles and learn some things from people that we made, and that may be in a college course or in a college degree or something along those lines, if you want to do it that way. Dave, I think we're
about there. For me, college just tattooed the word trainable on my forehead. Yeah. So, but
employers see it differently. All employers see it differently. So.
But yeah, holy cow, 11:30 already. We have another half-hour post show coming up, but already mentioned on the School of Podcasting, I will be interviewing Shane from Spybro. Well, actually from, I just said it, Tourpreneur. And really interesting interview. I actually emailed him like, dude, I knew this was good when we did it, but like there's some really good nuggets in here. And so that'll be coming up Monday on the School of Podcasting. Jim, what's coming up over at theaverageguy.tv?
Yeah, Mike and I talked a little bit about this GameStop thing that's going on in the market and how early they learned everything they learned from cryptocurrency. So it's kind of an interesting kind of conversation, and that this is nothing new in the market. But we spent a little time doing that, and then we talk about how to replace Jim's network because the Mac is coming. So if you want a more detailed discussion on that, you can get it as well. Theaverageguy.tv. Nice.
And thanks to I don't know about you. We're both coughing. I see a lot of muting of mics and coughing today. Yeah, and I just started to turn into Peter Brady. Thanks to Mark from from podcastbranding.co. Yeah, and the James over the Dog Podcast Network.com. Thanks to the Latin Podcast Awards for upping your patronage. If you'd like to be a patronage, if you made it this far to the end of the show, then you probably think there's some value to it. So we've given you value. How about you give us some value back over at askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. Or if you're looking for just a one-time donation, you can go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/store. And I still have 20 seconds to kill. I thought that would take me up to the end, but
Brady, what's the line that Peter Brady says?
Pork chops and applesauce? No, I don't know. No, nobody likes a Charlie in the box. No, that's a whole different guy. Anyway, stick around for some post show. Yes, and
when it's time to change, I think isn't that the line he's singing when his voice cracks? It's a Shana Na song. They sing a lot of Shana, if I remember. Autumn turns to winter, and winter turns to spring. Is this bringing memories back, friends? If you've watched that episode of, I'd play it, but we'd get taken down on YouTube for that probably. Yeah, I think it's when it's time to change. Oh, this is the line. When it's time to change, you've got to rearrange. I think his voice cracks on that line.
That's some Moon June Spoon kind of rhyming going on there. That's pretty good stuff there. That's wow.
I like it.
I love bad rock music like that, where it's just a bad song and they're like, oh baby, you set me on fire, and you're like, let's see, desire, or and then they go blah blah blah. You're my one desire. And like, okay, it's a Moon June Spoon kind of band, and they're gonna do that whole route. So, but yeah, if you're or Craig or Gary, if any of you guys have, I look down and I do have a little hand raised, and it's the one and only Gary Stockton is going to come up on the stage here. And Just or Craig, if you guys have a question, that's how you do it. Raise your hand and we will bring you on. So, Gary, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, Dave. Nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you. What can we help you with?
Yeah. I didn't really have a question. I was trying to jump in on the conversation about college and whether it's been helpful or not. Great conversation. Really love that. And thank you, Jim, for those comments. I haven't let it hold me back. I think I've gotten surprisingly far. And I think it's just by trying to dive in and learn things and maybe study things after hours, have a curiosity. I ended up in marketing because I think I'm a creative type, musician. That helps. I think the music, that helped me creatively figure things out. But I'm a slow, plodding learner. That's how I describe myself. So I compete with a lot of these MBAs. I work for a top employer in Orange County, #1 employer here in our county. And I always feel when I'm in the office that I'm competing with people that have really earned their place, so I've got to work that much harder to stand out.
There you go. And you said most of your jobs came from word of mouth, right?
Yeah, my last 5 jobs, LinkedIn, networking with people and keeping that network going has been essential, and helping others. Anytime I hear of anybody who's out of a job or looking to move, I always try and help them, introduce them to people, and really use LinkedIn as it's intended. And I'm content marketing. That's kind of what I do. And I work for a big credit bureau, so it's a kind of over 10,000 employees, so it's a big company.
Wow.
But word of mouth, recommending people, helping people, that comes around later in life. I've had one job come as a direct result of helping somebody else get up the ladder.
That's it.
Yeah, no, it's well, and Gary, I think, we all come to it in a different way. And I think you recognizing that, like, my college experience really isn't going to do it for me. Is great recognition, right? It's just to be like, okay, I know that's probably not the best use. There are some areas that's going to hold people back. Like there are just some employers who draw the line and say, nope, if you don't have it, you don't get in. I happen to work for one of those right now. And so, I'm not trying to say it's right or it's wrong or anything like that. It will, but for you, it's working. And listen, I think you got to, regardless of whether you have a college degree or not, you got to network because every single job that I've had since college has been word of mouth. Like I have never, I've always known someone moving into that role. Since the military, I went into banking, and that was because of my sister-in-law. I moved from banking to computer retail sales because I knew a guy. I moved back into the banking because they knew me. I got my next job because I had a friend in the business. I got the job I have right now because I had a friend over there. So I think you got to network regardless, right?
Yes,
for sure.
I really enjoy the show, guys. Thanks so much.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the invite to Clubhouse.
Yeah, Just or Tim, if you have a question, in fact, as I look down, Just has a question. So, Just Samson. What a cool name.
I like it.
Anything
with Samson's is a powerful name, though.
That's
right?
it. So, I've invited him to the stage. There he is. How are you, buddy?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Well,
I've been a long-time listener to both of you guys, especially on the podcast, and this whole Clubhouse thing is very interesting. I've seen a lot of people kind of crossing over, doing a podcast while they're on Clubhouse, and I've even Pat Flynn was doing he was actually doing a YouTube live stream crossing over on Clubhouse. So things are it's pretty interesting how these are working.
Well, I heard somebody say, is Clubhouse going to replace podcasting? Because people are listening to audio. And I have the mentality of a musician where I was in a band. We played a little bit of rock. We played a little bit of blues, played a little bit of swing. This is back when the whole jump, jive, whale thing was going on. And you'd have another band that would come on that was kind of playing the same thing. And people were like, oh, you guys worried? I'm like, not if we're better. If we're better, I'm not worried. I'm like, we'll still bring in our audience and that whole 9 yards. But if you're not as good as what other options out there, yeah, maybe you should be a little worried. But if you're not, and you've got a engaged audience and things of that nature, because I've heard some really good Clubhouse meetings, and I've heard some that were just absolute caca poo poo. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, I was in the same. I kind of thought the same thing, only because, within the last, almost a year now, with the virus being around and not commuting as much as I did before, listening to podcasts, that was my jam. I had an hour and a half commute both ways. And that's just what I did. I would listen to podcasts. Audiobooks have kind of taken over that because of the jump to learn more and take advantage of this downtime. Taking courses, taking classes, and just trying to up my game. So when the gates open up, the tiger gets let loose. Yeah. So, I kind of thought at first, I was like, wow, why would anybody even listen to a podcast when you can go on and listen to, Gary Vee or any people that you don't have access to normally, and you could just listen to. It's literally like going to a conference every day when you go on to Clubhouse, if you go into the right rooms. So I kind of thought that as well, but I don't even think that now. I think that if anything, this is just an addition. The one thing I have seen, and I've even been a part of, is a lot of these using Clubhouse almost as an after show or after party.
Yeah.
You have this bit, you have your podcast, then you're like, if you have some questions, that's the thing is you listen to a podcast and you almost wish it was kind of like Clubhouse where you're like, oh man, I wish I could have jumped in and asked a question or I wish I could just get that little bit, just a little bit more. But I've seen a few people where they don't do the podcasts, simultaneous with Clubhouse, but they, at the end of it, they say at this time we're gonna do, or every Tuesday, whatever they throw out the schedule. So that I think that if anything, if it was used correctly, it could amplify, an audience and actually help somebody's podcast quite a bit.
And I did see Michael Stelzner say on Facebook that an Android version is coming. He didn't give an ETA, but and that's where I kind of scratch my head, because I could say, join me at this address and do that via Zoom or StreamYard, or I'm not quite sure. I think because Zoom and StreamYard, people think they have to have their cameras on. Maybe the fact that it's audio only is what's attracting people.
I do think, and the fact that it's kind of an invite only, so it does have that.
Oh, that's the fear of missing out. Yep, that's the big buzz.
Yep,
that's
exactly.
Jim said that a couple weeks ago. That's really why this is going. It's exclusivity. So
I do think because the audio is so good on iPhones that it works because it's not as complex, right? So, Dave, if they want to join us here, now they could go through StreamYard on the phone and be able to do that, but that seems like a barrier. You're already in the app. It's already there. I can push the button, raise my hand, and get invited, and then the audio is good. And I think that is stripping down a barrier to entry on this. That just makes it a lot easier. And I listen, as long as we've been on video, the people are still afraid of it. They still do not like it. So I think that's part of its success. I mean, we've had over the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've been doing this. We've had great success with people. The call quality of somebody coming in on Clubhouse is just better than it was coming in on YouTube. So
yeah, and I think again the whole not being seen, the fact that you've got the equipment right there, and I said the one night I was actually in a room and I created, cooked, and ate my dinner all while being part of a conversation because I could mute myself, and it was like, all right, again, I could do that on Zoom on my phone, if I wanted to. So it's interesting. But just where can we find your podcast?
Well, I have it's called A Moment With. I do that podcast every now and then. What I have shifted. I'm guilty of being the person that shifted a lot of stuff to YouTube, and so realistically, the reason why I jumped in is because you were talking about my industry in a way, not knowing. You were talking about college, and you do talk about music, which is kind of funny because I've been in the music industry, live entertainment, touring, band management, for 30 years now. I was part of the team that started the Coachella Valley Arts and Entertainment, festival out in Indio, Stagecoach, EDC Las Vegas. There's quite a few that I've helped. I helped move, Las Vegas out from LA after an incident out to Vegas. So I do a lot of these big, 125, 150,000 people per day festivals. Plus, started going into, different events. I worked for a company called AEG that, we did festivals all over the world. So, and I was in a VP position, and being in that position, I did start to notice that as far as the schooling wise, you didn't need a degree to really get into anything unless you were getting into the finance part. Our controller, a few people that were under a controller, but as far as like other, maybe a couple other VPs, but a lot of people, it was the experience set the bar. And it was one of those, it's who gets you to the job. It's what keeps the job. So when it came to, going to college, spending all the money, I mean, literally the ideology, especially in the music industry, was, why would I waste, so many years to go do that and then come out of it and do something completely different? Because we did have, I had a few assistants that came straight from college, and they're definitely not doing, they definitely weren't doing the same thing that they went to school for. So, and then you come out with all this debt and everything else. I mean, I got out of high school. I finished high school in 3 years. I was already promoting. I was a competitive bodybuilder at the time. I was, by the time I was 19, I was going to be get my pro card.
Yeah.
And it was, I had a vision from, age 14 of exactly what I wanted to do. But I did go to college, and while I was going to college, I was promoting shows, I was managing artists, and I was making six figures before I even graduated. So, and then about a semester through college, I started thinking, like, why am I wasting my time with this when this is slowing me down? I could double my income and go out on the road, go tour, manage a bunch, do what I do. And obviously, at the time, it seemed like, it seemed like a kind of a crazy thing, and everybody's like, you sure you want to do this? But I did. I dropped out of college. I went full bore, and I ended up being the VP for, we cleared about $99 million a year, every year. That's about what we did. So,
Jim?
But let me jump in on this one though. I hear these stories all the time about I didn't go to school. It's a waste of time. I could have learned more doing other things. But that always comes from statements of hindsight. And I think it's super easy at 40 or 50 or whatever to look back and say, like, yeah, I didn't need it. Well, but what opportunities did you miss because you didn't get it? What kind of things, what other kinds of things could have happened? It's a little bit of being a hindsight historian. And again, I'm not trying to say you should or you shouldn't. You have to make that call. But I always get a little worried when we do stories like, yeah, I didn't do it, and look how successful I've been. Well, but look how different it could have been. You just don't know it. That's too easy. That's too easy of an out to say things like that. I think.
Have you seen the latest Chris Rock? Well, they redid his last special, and it's kind of the extended dance version of that now, of his last special. And he says, he's talking about how he went into like his, it was college or high school, maybe orientation. They're like, you can be anything. And he's like, why are we lying to these children? He's like, it should be, you can be anything you're good at if they're hiring. And I was like,
that's luck involved. I mean, it comes down to who we know, the relationships that we have. This is why, like, when John Lee Dumas came out with his methodology of creating this daily podcast, and then there's all these copycats, right, who came behind him. If I just do what John Lee Dumas did, I'll be successful. Not true. Like,
no.
Think of all the copycats that came out and weren't successful, because John had a lot of other things going on for him, right? And so, by the way, I love this discussion. I just think we have to be. It's tough. I'm not saying you have to go to college to be successful. You can be plenty successful, but don't say you don't have to go to school and to be successful, or it's a waste of time. Listen, I'm not working in the area that I got my degree in, but having that knowledge has been really, really helpful in all the jobs that I've done. So it hasn't been a waste, and it was expensive. I went to a private liberal arts school. That's when you look up private liberal arts school in the dictionary, it equals expensive, right? I don't regret any of that. I don't regret any of that time. So I'm a little hesitant to look back and say, well, because I did it this way, that's the way it should be done. Yeah, good for you. Good that you did it that way. I'm sure you're successful. Yeah. But that you shouldn't tell people don't go to school because it's a waste of time. Let them make that decision, right?
Yeah, because I think the thing that always got me was, I remember when I went to school the first time, you go to orientation, and I kind of had sanctioned off with 3 other people. And we're all kind of like, hey, we'll just kind of hang out today. We got our little group. And this guy stood up and said, all right, he goes, look around and find 3 other people. He goes, because 75% of you are not going to graduate. And we all looked at each other and we're like, not us, no way. And I got a degree and the other 3 didn't. And so it's one of those things where I think you kind of know if it's going to work or not.
It's another life event, like anything. Yeah. I spent 5.5 years in the military. That's a life event of it really isn't. The chat room's kind of saying this, like, your success is kind of based on what you do. and how you right. And then there's a whole bunch of chaos factor involved in it. And because you can do everything right, but you can have one weird thing happen to you that derails it all.
Yeah.
And so I kind of think it's how we approach, it's our attitude and how we approach what we're doing going forward that makes the difference, because you can do everything right and have all that swept out from underneath you with a tragic event, something like that, right? Where it just doesn't work. So I'm a little hesitant. We always do this when we talk about this. It's like, well, I didn't do it, so that's the way it should be. And you're like,
yeah. Check out Kevin Hart's first book. I think it's called "You Can't Make This Stuff Up," if I remember right.
Yeah.
And going back to my earlier conversation on attitude, that's a guy that just got set up and kicked in the face and set up and kicked in the face and set up and kicked, like, over and over and over. And every time he said, all right, I'm going to go back and I'm going to come back so funny that you can't ignore me. And it was just like, It's all attitude. So
look at Will Smith. I mean, he was a teenager in Philadelphia and was getting into trouble.
Yeah.
And he sent him to LA and he was successful.
Well, Chris Rock, I just saw a 60 Minutes interview with him, dropped out of high school in the 10th grade. So, you're always going to have, isn't Bill Gates another dropout, if I remember right?
I went to school. Listen, I've gone to school with both people that dropped out because I grew up in Silicon Valley,
right?
Who dropped out and were very successful. I've also had some friends who have doctorate degrees and they're very, very successful.
Yeah,
like it happens on both. To be honest, Dave, it kind of goes back to the statement we started with in the show, which is, do you spend $40,000 on advertising if it makes you 80,000 or even 50,000? Like, would you spend 40 to make 50? I'd spend 40 to make 50 because that's 10,000 I didn't have before, right?
Right.
Do you spend that? I think college, technical school, whatever you're going to do that in, I think that's a similar situation, right? Do I pay that you're taking a risk? Could it provide additional income going forward? Yeah, it could. I've seen it both ways. It can. I've seen folks drop out and go homeless.
Yeah.
You're like, that's not always, dropping out. Growing up in the Silicon Valley in the 80s, the dream was to drop out of high school and start coding and be Bill Gates.
Right.
That everybody was trying to do that. And many of my friends, I had a few who tried. Some were successful and some weren't. That's not a guarantee. Stop following other people's patterns and follow yours.
That's it. Well, I've got a new toy, and I probably shouldn't talk about this because they're working on an affiliate program, but I'm going to start playing with it. It's basically SpeakPipe on steroids, and it's only $5 more, I think, a month. How do I get that off the screen? Go away. No. Blah blah. Now I lost you. There we go. But basically what it is, you go in, it's SpeakPipe, but you make much prettier pages. And if you're Pat Flynn and you have a team, you can set it so that when a voicemail comes in, it goes to, Sarah, the assistant or whatever, but it automatically transcribes the caller when somebody leaves you a message. So I'm going to probably add this to my site just to play with it. But the thing I thought was cool about it is one of the things you can do is they have a way to where you can set up a split screen. So that's when I went, now you got my, it's, by the way, it's Telbee, TELBEE.io, TELBEE.io. Let me throw that in the chat room. But what I liked about it is you can put a player and you end up with like this weird split screen where something on the left that you put in some sort of iframe, and then you have your player / voice button on the right. And I'm like, that would be great for feedback. So picture you're getting ready to launch a show and you go, hey, go listen to this episode. And you could put, here are the things I want to know. If you didn't listen to this, please click the button and let me know what time you checked out and why did you check out. And then just leave any feedback here, and it would go. And I was like, that would be, and they even said, wow, we hadn't thought of that. That's a good use. And I'm like, yeah, that would be a great use. So it's a little more, and here's the thing I liked about it. I talked to the two guys that designed it. They said they looked at SpeakPipe, and then they went to some forums where SpeakPipe was mentioned, and they looked at all the things people said, I wish SpeakPipe would do this. And I was like, that's a cool way to design anything. Find somebody who's doing it okay. And they said, we've got mad respect for SpeakPipe. Just, we looked at people said, oh, I wish it did this. I wish it did this. I wish it did this. And they designed a system that does that. So there you go. So that's a fun toy to play with. TELBEE. See, that's TELBEE.io. And I have them talked into starting an affiliate program. So it was like, I'm like, I probably shouldn't talk about this until they get their affiliate program in place. But I was like, oh, well.
Doing it in advance.
Yeah. So, but big plans for Super Sunday?
Oh yeah, that's next weekend. Nope, just watch the game.
Is it next weekend or this weekend?
No, it's next weekend.
I thought it was this weekend.
They take a week off in between.
That's why my brother, because I'm asking my brother, I'm like, should I just bring a bucket of Colonel and he said something like next week. And I was like, no, isn't it like tomorrow? And it's not. And that's why he said, oh, it's the day. Yeah. Okay. So Super Sunday is February 7th. Cause that's when he said, he goes, good, I'll give you your birthday present. Cause my birthday's that Monday on the 8th. He's like, so maybe we'll just have chicken and cake. I was like, that is a weird mix. Do you ever feel, Randy says, like you have an overflowing toolbox? Yes, but find yourself only using a couple of screwdrivers and a hammer. Yeah, there's so many. And here's the thing, I can't find, this is what I want in a CRS, because I'm not doing sales. I want a tool to remind me to talk to people. So somebody joins the School of Podcasting, let me click this and say, send them an email in a week, and do that every week. And then after about 4 of those, I'll go, okay, now talk to them every 2 weeks or talk to them once a month or whatever. I just need, that's all I need. I need to track how much they spent. I just need something. So I'm starting to use Evernote. I now have it in Zapier that when a new person signs up, it makes a folder and makes a note. And then I go into the note and I see I've got their email and stuff like that. And I go here and I send a video to them and go, thanks for joining the School of Podcasting. And then I put a reminder. And I just saw this morning where I got an email from that. So I think I found my tool, because Evernote, I didn't realize Evernote was going to remind me to go talk to, Schmoopy or whoever signed up. So, but that's a bummer. I was all pumped up for the Super Bowl this week, and it's next week.
Yeah, one more week. Just go to YouTube and watch all the previews for it. There's a whole bunch, right? You can get yourself all hyped up.
And that's something I missed. Why did all the big, like no Budweiser, no Coke and Pepsi, like why did they pull out? Have you heard about this?
No.
Yeah, my brother said all the big sponsors have pulled out of the Super Bowl. And I'm like, do they hate the weekend that much that they like, I don't know who, I don't, we need to check that. It could be fake news.
Pepsi, because Pepsi they own the halftime show. So, wow, that would be, do you think that would be big news?
I thought I heard somewhere that somebody said that, here, let's just go to Uncle Google. 2021 Super Bowl ads. Super Bowl 21 so far, Bud Light and Tide commercials lead the pack. Okay, so it's a bunch of crap. Watch all the commercials released so far. I don't want to do that. That's what I watched the game for. All right, I'll have to tell my brother. I don't know what.
Yeah, next week. So they read commercials. Is that what they pulled, or is that what do we know?
Well, he was saying they weren't going to sponsor it, and I was like, wait, why would you not? I understand that there's not going to be that many people in the stands, but the people in the stands don't see the commercials anyway. So that's just, maybe that's it. They're going to take their money. Kim says promoting COVID shots.
Oh,
that maybe they're going to take their ads and all right, because he said I'll have to check his chat. But he said something like a bunch of big people have pulled their ads. And I was like, so that's not going to be any fun. I want a bunch of burping frogs and farting horses and all the other shenanigans that are normally on that.
It's a good year to with everything that's going on. I think this will be the last Super Bowl that's like this. I think we'll be back up to full speed next year this time. So
yeah.
They are going to attend, I think Randy says 26,000 people, healthcare workers who are vaccinated.
Yeah, I heard that.
Are going to be in attendance. That's kind of surprising too. You kind of think the NFL might push the boundaries and be like, well, if they're vaccinated, why don't we just fill the stadium?
Yeah.
It's
a novel idea. Yeah.
Well, I think it's, there's a little bit of PR in there. You don't have to flaunt it.
Yeah.
I did see Australia has been without a new case in 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. And so a whole country, which, you kind of wonder, like, really? It's a lot of people, right? Anyways, reported case. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So they had a tennis match, no masks, Australian Open, seats full. Like they were doing the whole shooting match there.
5.5 million for a 30-second spot. I'll have to tell Jordan.
He's got the money, right?
He's probably. Yeah. Awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, friend.
I'm completely, have you ever done this where somehow I ended up with my headphone cord around my leg and I can't move. I'm like,
it must have been when you turned around to get the book or something.
Yeah, I did. I rolled over I gotta roll the chair now. I'm literally in my leg. Okay, I think I can move, but I hate this where you roll over the headphone. There we go. Now jeez. This is why I want wireless headphones. I know I would have to change the battery every week.
No, you don't.
No,
don't do it.
So
they drop out. They lose their charge. Don't do it, Dave.
Yeah.
I know you want it, but don't. You'd be better off. Well, anyways, we're at the end of the show. See you guys. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. See ya. Take care, everybody.